Hey, Josh. So sorry. You asleep?
No, it's fine, said Josh, waking up. Go Bills. Go Bills, said none other than Mayor Del Reed and the sheriff and 6 foreboding deputies at his door. Oh no. Josh tried to shake off the cobwebs of bizarre dreams to understand what he did wrong. Merry Christmas, Mayor El Padrino, the Godfather. Perhaps he'd done nothing wrong except displease the Mafia, and there were 8 of them sent to rein him in when he was asleep. Look, said Del Reed, I'm afraid you can't sleep here tonight. And Josh understood. The water tower was shared property, and every week he may or may not have found new ways to make it a little more conducive for a home, and less conducive as public infrastructure. What started as just a hammock strung between the platform's framework, much better than sleeping on the platform floor, to a floorboard below the hammock, much better than falling to your death if you sleepwalked, to a whole patio floor, more room for activities, a privacy half-wall, less room for jokes, and a matching towel, washcloth, and slipper set just because he deserved it. Today, his multi-story treehouse-style adventure course of rooms, Cascade-style plumbing system, and stamp collection were quite enviable. And not technically his. I'm sorry, gentlemen, Madam Sheriff. I didn't mean any harm, said Josh. I can disassemble it back to the way it was. Most of the joints are tied off rather than nailed to protect the original latticework. No. We think the water tower is cool, said the mayor. Too cool, added the sheriff. Thanks. But I don't know about too cool. Well, we do, said the sheriff. The Oracle's predicting over 2 feet of snow this Christmas and a wind chill to be -10 or -15 below zero. We just don't think you'll stay warm enough out here. Or anyone away from a night fire, said the mayor. He's actually telling stories about the blizzard of 27, which actually claimed Mafia folk lives. 23, said the sheriff. Mayor, what more can we do? That night, Bills helped deputies, the fire brigade, and neighbors save over 65 Mafia folk traveling in the west, as 45-mile-per-hour wind gusts of -20 degrees tried to kill them. 20 inches of snow, over a man's knee, fell overnight.
Dawkins, is 20 inches normal for a storm in December?
Shouted Bear Morse as they sawed the wheels off a buried wagon to make it into a rescue sled. 20 inches overnight? Nah, usually we get around 20 inches all December, shouted Dawkins. Last December we only got 5 inches in total. Only an hour later, the duo, with over a dozen rescued monks hoping to visit Mount Sujimoto, were forced to abandon the sled and send an SOS over the telegraph cables. That's the 300th SOS of the night, said Brigadier Dorsey with pages of notes pinned to the telegraph office wall in triage ranking. 40 sat in the war room in the town hall council chamber around the emergency fire to relay messages from Dorsey. This was No Town all over again. Only this time the dogs and lions were things like temperature and wind, much harder to kill with cannonballs. How many rescue teams do we have left to send? Asked General Bean, looking at his pocket watch. 4 a.m., none of them sleeping. 2/3 of all units are requesting rescue, said McDermott. In total calls? Asked Bean. No. 2/3 of our rescue units are now stuck and freezing out there. To say nothing of the Mafia folk. You're saying more rescue workers are stuck than we have rescue workers left? Said Mayor Del Reed.
306 SOS,
said 40 in a wheelchair. McDermott's hands shook as he dropped additional chess pieces on the map from their upright positions to their sides, meaning stuck. Why did he even bother tracking them on a map? A white blanket would better represent the landscape. A compass couldn't even help a victim home, with visibility no farther than a person's arm.
310 S. O-S.
The generals and 4-0 looked at the chamber windows in horror. What's happening out there? The window itself looked to be a hive of invasive insects. The glass had the ice crystals of a typical blizzard, but plastered to that were ugly shadows of snow flash freezing to the walls. White cancer, colder than the coldest freezers, separated by glass. And that was for the lucky ones. Inside, with fire. What was out there? A million more crystals of snow pounded the window. Ice blew through every crack like dust. The stained glass skylight broke above them, and a trainload of snow poured into the room. The fire barrel and rescue map of chess pieces were directly below. The last known location of hundreds of men and women were buried in a pyramid of snow. The entire council chamber had become the bottom side of an hourglass. Buffalo was running out of time. A 6-year-old girl with a teddy bear was lowered from the skylight with a leather strap. McDermott caught her and carried her to 4-0's wheelchair. As he set her shivering body down, he noticed she wasn't holding a teddy bear, but it had been transformed into gloves. A puppet that probably saved her hands from frostbite. Hannibal jumped in after her. The hulking Mafia fireman with blue skin was a whole head and shoulders bigger than McDermott. Word was the mask fused to his jaw was to protect those around him.
Sweetheart, would you cover your ears, please?
Hannibal requested, as sensitive as a schoolteacher, despite looking more dangerous than a Viking. She did, and Hannibal whispered into the lieutenant general's ear grim information about what was found in saving the child. 2 or 3? Asked McDermott with wide eyes and a heavy heart.
5, sir. 20 steps from a shelter they couldn't see.
With that, Hannibal grabbed the leather strap to climb back up the pyramid of snow. Where are you going? Asked Bean, realizing McDermott was too stunned to speak.
Back out there.
Why not use the front door? Asked the mayor.
What front door?
Responded Hannibal. The mayor pointed at it, slowly.
Mayor, you are but a crevice in a glacier. The Buffalo Nation is just a memory under the surface of a new world.
Hannibal climbed. His jacket caught. General Bean held him.
Sir, there are Mafia folk out there. Chef Norm can't get to the longhouse chimney. The whole shelter could suffocate. Josh of Allentown's horse was found abandoned. That's not like him, even if he knew he was in trouble. Mama J can't reach the field hospital.
Yeah, and you'll be next if I let you go, General Bean said.
Sir, the fire brigade has never missed a call.
Then we make history. If you want to save Norman, who wanted to save the Skinner, who wanted to save the Longhouse, Bean whispered, orphan you recovered from the last bit of warmth her family could... McDermott slapped Bean into silence. Everyone was exhausted and tense. It was what Bean needed to recover into a cooler, sensitive manner. Her parents gave too much to give her a chance. Anybody out there now is a liability.
They are our neighbors, sir,
pleaded Hannibal. General Bean stared into his red eyes. He saw the reflection of hundreds of flakes, thousands of cries for help. The mayor lowered his head. General Bean made the hardest decision of his life. We leave them. We must stop responding, he whispered. 4-0.
Yes, sir.
Tell Dorsey to send the code to anyone still out there. No help possible. It was the last message Josh received. Out there. Out there in the Category 4. Out there in the first hurricane of ice and snow the nation had experienced. Josh of Allentown screamed to take another step out there into sheets of snow that gusted 80 miles per hour into his face. the speed of takeoff. Statues reached the speed of flight. Only the might of his mind could convince his body that it was not actually in a free fall toward the earth, but standing still, stepping forward, and the sky cut his face. Only his mind could convince his cheeks it was actually ice, and not piping hot knives that sliced open his skin, froze his blood. Forget 20 inches or 2-foot predictions. Forget devastating wind chills of 10 or 15 below. The actual wind crippled the nation at negative 35 degrees below zero. 56 inches of snow fell, as high as a man's chest. That wind shoved powder like that into an avalanche the size of a sea. It moved white waves across the frontier as tall as 8 feet. Josh returned to the shelter of last resort, fearing the worst. But the heat of the moose had allowed the lost boy enough warmth to come back from the brink. Josh gently shook the Pony Express rider awake. "What did the telegraph say?" asked Cade, putting on his spectacles. "Oh, the message from out there? No help possible, that one." They said, "Merry Christmas." On Christmas Eve, there were only 9 hours and 1 minute of daylight before the igloo fell back into darkness. Josh and Cade watched each other's faces dim as they kept busy playing games, kept optimistic, imagining rescues. They had sung every Christmas song before imaginary breakfast. They had compared adventures from every weekending of the year before enjoying imaginary dessert, taken before imaginary lunch. Turns out Cade was as busy as the Bills on his Pony Express route, and had stamps from every realm in the multiverse that was known. Before imaginary snack time, they drew, or in Josh's case, attempted to draw the Bills' iconic buffalo emblem in the soot on the top of the igloo, which led them a snow day closer to now. Josh lit his firearm again to give them a burst of heat. It still burned his arm, but he didn't let on so much as a wince to keep Cade positive. The Pip-Boy gadget had shown zero dignity left in the status bar for over a minute of continued flames before it all went dark. "Oh, gee, that was a fast one. You warm already?" asked Cade. Josh didn't have to fake a smile anymore, because they were consumed by darkness. No power, no fuel, no more heat, no more help. "Not exactly, little man. Let's come up with another Christmas story." "No, what is it? Are you out of fuel?" "You can tell me," said Cade, clear and direct. "You know, I actually am." "Okay. Figured as much. I'm kinda surprised it lasted this long." 2 hours later, Josh shook rather convulsively, and both of their teeth chattered loudly. The moose that saved Cade's life was frozen now with the night temperature falling. Wind and grains of snow pelted the dome in the quiets between conversations. Josh felt himself starting to drift, drifting in the drifts. "Don't you fall asleep yet, Josh. You'll miss St. Nick." Days upon weeks of not enough sleep. Constant moving, fighting, walking, winning, shoveling, waking, but not enough recovery. But you didn't come out here to save yourself. Cade needs a hero, or the closest you can come to one. "What's something you always wanted to do?" Josh asked. 2 hours later, after playing make-believe in an imaginary world with imaginary gibberish languages, Josh stopped shivering. His body had been numb, but he felt like he could feel his organs shutting down. Cade continued to quiz him on which Bills were the worst at various skills, like sewing socks or canning peaches, or shooting arrows with their feet. I think now's the time, Josh thought. Hey, Cade, he interrupted. Josh was shocked at the lump that formed in his throat. Maybe we take a little time to talk about everyone we love before we fall asleep tonight.
Now that's a great idea, said Cade. You start.
2 hours later, he realized he loved this little trooper already as much as he loved his own family from the fireball. As his body shut down for the long winter nap, he considered, this is what it must be like to be a father.
Are you scared?
Asked Cade, seconds or minutes or hours later, waking Josh from a reverie. Me? This guy?
Yeah, you. Josh of Allentown.
No. Josh of Allentown is never scared, joked Josh. And then, but I'm not Josh of Allentown. I'm just Josh. I'm just a regular human kid. No different than you, except a little older. Sometimes I even look up to Josh of Allentown. For strength. For the idea of his. The story as strong as a savior. But I'm just Josh. And it hurts a whole lot to know that I'm letting people down when I can't be more what they want.
What do they want?
Asked Cade. They want me to save them. But right now, all I want to do is save you, Josh admitted. And I'm scared I can't.
Save me?
Asked Cade. Cade, I would give anything. But the truth is, from the Telegraph last night, nobody is able to get to us.
Oh, I know,
said Cade, matter of fact. Cade, I'm sorry. I failed you. I failed. I have no way to save you, said Josh.
What if I'm here to save you?
In the darkness of the tomb, Cade broke off half of his blue and white wampum shell bracelet that held his Orenda. It's you. Josh realized that all this time it was Cade who kept the conversation going, with whatever he could come up with, who kept delaying Josh's final dreams. The hero. Josh couldn't feel his arms, but knew Cade put half the bracelet on his frozen wrist, opposite the firearm. Cade, the echo of himself, Josh of the Fireball Ferry, at that age. Just another extraordinary human kid, no different than him, except a little younger. It's the ones who still believe who must train the cynics.
Never, ever give up,
said Super Cade.
Hey, Josh?
Yeah, Cade.
I'm pretty grateful that I got to spend the day with you. You're pretty awesome,
said Cade in the darkness at the end. Before he too fell asleep, he could feel Josh's tears drop on his head. It would be so easy to let the story end there, to relax into the movie version of his life and reminisce through the credits at all the names who made it possible. To sleep in the dream. You let Philly stay so close, she'll have trouble leaving. Bring it to your chin. The Buffalo Bills wall. It's your best skill. Look to the west.
It's crucial that we preserve the way.
Spy Master, I will give my last finger to you. The thing about it is, Josh ain't alone. Not anymore. Greatness, kid. You got the names for it. But never ever give up. 2 hours later, Josh felt a puppy licking his face. Let me sleep, he thought at first. Then second, let me open my eyes. They were frozen shut. But the warm tongue lapped up the salty tear crystals, and Josh could see in the morning light of the igloo.
Merry Christmas!
Shouted Super Cade, limber and moving about.
Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas!
Josh felt like that much Christmas cheer this early in the morning slapped him in the face 3 times. We're alive? Was his third thought. And his fourth of the day was, holy Hanukkah, that's not a puppy! Ah! Where did you get a bear? Josh jumped up and slammed his head onto the top of the dome.
You really must be careful when you jump into a carcass sleeping bag,
Said a voice from somewhere outside the igloo?
Half the time the hero's warm, but smells like Yeti food for the rest of winter.
What's a Yeti?
Asked Cade.
The Yate, Wampa, the abominable snowman.
Said the voice. Josh, a bit overwhelmed, wiped the bear slime off his face only to notice, my arm's on fire! Josh flailed the firearm around a moment, range of motion he hadn't known for almost a day now, before turning it off. He realized with a little sting on the calluses that he could feel his arm and hands and legs again. The arm must have been roasting for a fair amount of time before he woke up to a bear.
Yeah, besides, he's only a cub.
A bear cub. When did you get a bear cub? Asked Josh.
Well, just now, from St. Nick.
St. Nick?
Yes?
Said the voice outside. Josh squinted at Cade, cuddling the cub, and crawled out of the igloo.
Oh, Merry Christmas, Josh of Allentown. Go Bills! Whoa.
Whoa. There's no way that you're actually...
What? Is traveling through the space-time continuum so hard to believe?
How did you get here? Asked Josh to jolly old St. Nicholas, in a red uniform and long, curly hair.
What do you mean how? It's Christmas magic!
Said Santa.
Like Fitzmagic?
Asked Super Cade, crawling out with a bear cub. No, not like him, said Josh. Santa leaned in.
You know, Josh, it's traditional to leave cookies out for...
Seriously, sir. We appreciate the bear and the fuel for my arm, but things are dire. We're stranded along with dozens and maybe hundreds of Mafia folk. It is important to know exactly how you got here.
A buffalo,
Shrugged Santa.
I always use her to get to Allentown.
2 hours later, a bison with a very shiny nose burst through the snowdrifts of Allentown like a wrecking ball. Santa, Super Cade, a bear cub, and Josh of Allentown held on for dear life. In the sleigh rode the sheriff, her deputies, Chef Norm, Skinner, Mama J, and a dozen Korean monks with Bear Morse and Dawkins.
Yuletide in the hole!
Boom Boom joked as he dove away from his dynamite. A Christmas explosion blew a hole in the ice to the skylight of Allentown Hall, where the generals and 4-0 were saved. The youngling with Hannibal had a bear cub of her own. And by mid-morning, as hundreds of unanswered calls were being responded to and new fires stoked under cleared chimneys, it was apparent there were suddenly as many bears in Allentown because there were kids. Why did you give them all bears? Josh asked St. Nick.
Because they were on the good list. You know the way of Santa.
St. Nick took a long swig of loganberry pop out of the bottle, and so did a polar bear, for some reason. Santa burped. Plenty jolly enough.
Besides, I felt like if anyone could handle bears, it would be the beautiful younglings of the Mafia folk.
They let the beautiful Christmas scene savor and twinkle like a star.
Don't bears eat bison?
Asked Morris behind them.
No. No,
Said Santa, not entirely confident.
at least the cubs don't. So you've got a couple years to figure it out.
Maybe Doc can take him north, suggested Dawkins, building a snowman with Skinner skins. What do you think? Sure, said Skinner. Lots of demonic bears in the Saber-Tooth Mountains. The Skinner took a huge grizzly pelt from his pack, very fresh, and gave it to Bear Morris as a gift. In fact, we just got an opening for one more. Maybe you can train his replacement to drink pop out of the bottle like Santa's. JBL Poyer, Esquire, handed Skinner a leather-bound book with blue and gold markings. My apprentice asked if I would give this to you. Merry Christmas. Thank you. He worked very hard with us to save lives near the crashed jet. I know he wishes he could have done more, said Skinner. Yes, we all do, said Poyer. Over 500 Mafia folk rescued from stranded vehicles after 2 days felt like nothing when reports came in that there were more, who they found too late. On that somber note, they looked out at the younglings, helping Dawkins lift the snowman torso onto the base.
I've been all over the multiverse,
said St. Nick, catching their eyes, but putting a hand on Josh's shoulder. It was very nearly one of the statistics.
The strong hearts are more resilient than you might appreciate.
Josh rubbed at the blue and white wampum bracelet Super Kate gave him. Never ever give up. No. I appreciate it, reflected Josh. He looked around at all the children of different backgrounds with the same power for good. He wasn't alone. He didn't have to save them, because the Mafia folk had literally dug deep to save their neighbors that Christmas. To save him, a nation of strong hearts.
Merry Christmas to all!
Said St. Nick, mounting the bison and drawing a saber.
And to all a good...
Hey, Bills! We've got another call, said Brigadier Fraser, continuing what would be a 5-day recovery to normal. No rest this Christmas. No rest this year. Night. Hamlin? Josh mumbled to himself in fear. Hamlin? Oh, God, Hamlin! Josh sprinted through the snow, hurdling open pits and tall stones. The lawyer's apprentice wasn't moving, just laying there. They found so many like this, so many strong hearts who got disoriented in the snow, who had nowhere to go, who fell. Hamlin lay motionless and slumped against a gravestone. Snow drifted over him. It was Christmas, but the storm raged on. Josh once again fought forward through the wind chill of -35, the drifts over 8 feet. Only this time it was more chilling because Santa was gone, and the reality of this Christmas was being reported. He was in the cemetery after all, the cemetery of unprecedented ice and tragedy, the painful monikers of this nation this season. The Niagara Frontier had paid the ultimate price, once-in-a-generation pains, 4 times this year. Lay Buffalo in the forest lawn. Let her peace. Let her rest. 41 precious souls fell in this blizzard. Strong hearts, every one. Just like the firemen, just like the 10 victims of terrorism. Josh of Tombstone ran, Not another one. Hamlin! He shouted, finally arriving and shaking the boy. Hamlin, buddy! Hamlin, come on, partner! His eyes peeked open. The clerk woke up. Josh? Go Bills. Thank Evan. Josh shouted and turned the shaking shoulders into an embrace. I thought we lost you too. Oh, I must have fallen asleep, said the boy who'd been working more constantly than Josh. Days and nights now of heavy labor, digging and digging and digging. Digging into homes, digging into wagons, digging into tombs. A bunch of us, Khalil and Kair, Cookie, Shepherd 19, we were all digging, and I stayed back to pray. I was praying, Hamlin started to cry on defrosted cheeks. Hamlin gestured to not just the 41 new tombs, but the circle of 10 funeral posts around them. Ancestors now marked by the dignified kakangu of the Jiriyama tradition, each one carved of the sacred wood of Black Rock Grove, hand-milled by Wajid, Bottoms, Dawkins, and Worthy Haynes. Josh of Allentown looked to their brothers and sisters, aunties, and ancestors. Those 10 were so valuable to him in the Buffalo Nation. Berta Drury, Margus Morrison, Andre McNeil, Sheriff Aaron Salter, Geraldine Talley, Celestine Cheney, Deacon Patterson, Cat Massey, Pearl Young, Mrs. Ruth Whitfield. Tears filled his eyes too, remembering them, the inventors, the teachers, the wagon masters, friends. Hamlin doubled over and wept. Josh thought he understood why. At least what suddenly gripped his own heart. Felt like they had just made this memorial and planted the perennial gardens, the ancestor trees, and the forest lawn. It felt too soon to learn Kim, Queen of Pagulaville, a month later had vanished into a hospital with no information. It felt too soon to lose Jason Arno and lay his fire helmet on the pillar. It felt too soon to lose 3 neighbors in the Thanksgiving storm. It felt too soon to make room for 41 more. Josh embraced Hamlin's shoulders and head. It had to be remembered. Despite bravery in battle and learning so much, he was still a youngling. They rocked in the middle of the cemetery, in the middle of a blizzard, in the middle of Christmas. And then, something new fell out of the sky. Thousands of them,